Perfect. So, Sarah, how are you today?
I'm good, Dan. How are you? Is it
I'm
Dan or
doing good as
Dano?
It's fine. Dano, it's good.
Okay, great.
It's fine. Yeah. I mean, whatever you want, it's good.
Okay, amazing. Whatever you want.
Yep. So, how's your day going so far?
Day's going good. I got my dog here. We went to the dog park this morning. He ran around chasing squirrels.
Right.
Going down to San Diego to see some friends later today, and so it's all good. Hey, Mr. Stockdale.
That's good. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Now, before we start, I have to give you an epic welcome to the show. So if you have watched some of my episodes, you know what I'm gonna do. If not, here we go. I just love doing this. I don't know why, but I just love doing this.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Right? Now, starting with the whole interview here, tell me how your acting career started.
Sure. So I would say I've always, Mr. Stockdale probably knows this, but I started, and my dad and my mom are here. Daddy Spatty, that's my family. I would say my acting career started, I feel like I always liked performing. I danced growing up and I did some community theater. And then in high school, I was kind of more of an athlete, but then I ended up getting a lead in a musical my freshman year. So that kind of started my journey with performing. Hey, Katie, I definitely, so sorry. So I'd say, and then I went to college for musical theater. But I would say I started getting competitive about like TV and film when I moved to Los Angeles after college. So I kind of did musical theater at first because I'm from Pittsburgh. So that was sort of the only outlet. That's not to say that there's not TV and film there, especially now. There's definitely some more stuff going on. But at that point in time, that's kind of all we knew to do. And then I actually remember asking my mom and dad my sophomore year of college if I could move to LA, like just drop out of school. And they were like, absolutely not, you can't. So I would say my journey really started when I was like 22 and I moved to Los Angeles to pursue TV and film.
There you go. And then in 2015, you were in a short film called Amazon Crime. You played as the attorney. Tell me, was that like the first film that you were in? And what are some of the things that you learned in that project that helped later in your career?
Sure. So, I mean, to be totally honest with you, I don't remember much from that project, just because it was probably something that I had self-submitted to on Actors Access. But I will say Max, who was the director of that film, I'm still in contact with. But something like that, I think a lot of people in my situation where you kind of come out here with no connections, parents in the industry, and that's not a diss, it's just to say like people, you really do have to start from the bottom up. And so that includes, making profiles on LA Casting and Actors Access. So I'd say for me, the experience of auditioning for something and just like remembering lines and, showing up and booking something and getting paid. I mean, I think that was the first job I got paid for. I think I made like $100. So in that regard, it's special, but I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And well, that same year you were in several other projects, such as Next Day Getaway and What No One Tells the Bride. Tell me about your characters in those films.
Sure. So Next Day Getaway, that was a short film that my friend Ben at the time kind of put together, and it was sort of a short film for them. I played like it revolved around his life as a single guy in Los Angeles and how he kind of like went through girls, and I was one of those girls. So I had some footage from that for a while, but What No One Tells the Bride was a special project because it started a relationship with a creative production team that I actually Get Bossy or the Get Bitchy that's on there was the same team. So that was my first experience with shooting a pilot and then hoping that pilot goes on to be sold to a network.
Okay.
And yeah, Shane and Retta, who were the producers on that, and Sarah, I still have a close relationship with them to this day.
That's epic. And how do you usually prepare to play a character?
Well, I think everybody's journey is different, and I think in terms of like which medium you're doing, like if it's theater versus film, it's going to sometimes be like a different experience. But for me, I would say definitely with TV, I try to really create the world imaginatively that I'm playing in. So like I, you know, if my line says, you know, I saw him, he was by the river, I really try to like imagine seeing him by the river, because it's kind of one of those things, even if you think about in your real life, you have to see it before you can say it.
Yeah.
And acting is the same way in some ways. So I'd say, you know, auditioning versus like actually showing up to set, for me the process can be different. But yeah, I find that I have to like really imagine the world that I'm playing in to create a strong foundation for me as an actor, so that I can go in and not all that matters is the world I've created in my relationship with the person that I'm acting opposite of.
Okay, that's awesome. And do you relate somehow with the characters that you play?
So I think that's a great question, because I think a part of acting, I think people get into acting in the first place because, you know, I mean, not for everybody, but I can only speak for myself. It's like, not humble, at least for me. Like I loved like the appreciation that I got from my parents, for example, or, you know, it was a way that I felt like I was special, or a way that I felt like I stood out. And then the older I've gotten and the more involved, and just like the more my career has advanced, I have found that, you know, part of what makes acting special and part of what makes acting hard is that there is a sincere vulnerability that goes into knowing your casting and knowing the, you know, the characters that you get called in for. So I tend to play like kind of judgmental, conservative, bitchy characters. And in real life, I'd like to think that I'm like not those things, but of course that like exists inside of me. I can be judgmental, I can be bitchy, I can be conservative in some ways. And so there has to be like an internal admit when you get cast. Thanks, Katie. And so I, you know, of course I relate. I'm not like a method actor. So for me, it's not like I'm method acting, you know, I pretend to be like Abraham Lincoln, like Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like I read these sentences and somehow, you know, when I get auditions, I have to think to myself like, wow, what part of me like lives inside of this character? And I do think that that's how you make it personal to you.
Okay, that's awesome. And then in 2016, you were in the TV series Betrayed. You played as Shelby. Tell me also about your character in that TV show.
Sure. So Shelby was that was my first like TV show that I booked that I knew was going to be on like cable. So that was on Investigation Discovery. So that was cool. That was actually a non-union gig, even though it was like one of my bigger roles like on television. I played a concerned sister to the main character, who in real life actually did go missing and was found dead. Yeah. But my character in that, I really was just kind of giving information to the detectives, and also there was a scene where I kind of confront my sister about this guy that she's seeing, and yeah, I'd say that was it.
Fair enough. That's cool. And then in 2018, you were in SWAT. What are some of the things that you enjoy about your character?
Hey Brock's my neighbor. SWAT was a very cool experience for me because it was my first co-star, and it was 2 scenes, and it was and actually my parents were in town. We were at Universal when I got the audition, so I had to leave Universal, go audition, and then go back to Universal. Or I don't remember if we went back to Universal. I don't remember what we did, but that was a cool experience because that was filmed up in Santa Clarita Studios, so you're on a big set, you know, and it's not just a day of shooting. You have 2 weeks of prep. You get to do your hair and makeup, and then you do a fitting, and then you go to set. And then I was allowed to be there. I was cast it for 2 days of shooting. So that was kind of the same, kind of going back to like prepping for a character. Like they were both similar roles in the sense that I played a version of myself, I'll say, that's, very concerned and very like aware that there's a bigger issue going on. And so that was cool. Billy Gerhardt was my director for that, and he's done like a bunch of television. So I don't even think I realized like what a big deal that was, and that's just kind of how that happens.
That's awesome. Now, what do you think is the key for a good performance for a TV show or a film?
Sure. So I would say, listen, TV is hard because, obviously, but it's hard because it really is like the hurry up and wait mentality. So a lot of people, what do I think is a good, it's all of it. It's really like the whole world. That's why, this year has been so hard for so many people, because part of the fun of being on set is creating the world. So you have the director, you have your producers, you have your hair and makeup, you have all of production you have your actors, you have your stunt people, that are all together helping. You have your stylists that are helping to create this world together. And so I think, from an acting standpoint, all you can do is just show up, knowing your lines, doing the creative work, and kind of just be ready for anything, because you can get a new script in your trailer when you're waiting. That's happened to me before, where you're ready for set, you're good to go, and then production gives you a new script and you have to memorize 10 new lines. So you kind of just have to be ready for anything and ready to play. Does that help? Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I got it. And in 2020 and in this year, you were in even more projects such as Get Bossy, Un Gigante Sin Cabeza, My Schultz, and Crest. Now tell me, what are some of the challenges that you had on those performances due to COVID?
Sure. So Get Bossy was actually filmed in 2019. Okay. So we had no issues with that. It came out this year. It's on Amazon Prime currently. But all of those projects, Crest was filmed in, you're right, Crest was filmed in 2020. That was pretty much the only, and I did like one commercial. But hey Floyd, but Crest, it was actually a blessing. I felt lucky that I got to do it, just because it was my first experience with the COVID protocols. So I had to go get a COVID test. I had to get 2 COVID tests, and then they had to take my temperature on set. I had to wear my mask while I was on set. But everything was like kind of the same. That's sort of the nice thing about being in like the A group. Everybody has like groups, and the A group are the actors. So you're kind of allowed to have your mask off when you're on set. I felt bad for everybody that was working production or having to use the camera or something, because it's hot. But true. It kind of just set me up for, honestly, the world that we're in now.
And tell me how has been like the whole audition process that it's now at home? Like, how do you what's the word that I'm looking like? How's that working for you?
Sure. Well, I guess I'd say in the beginning of all of this, I had a lot of resistance to the self-tapes. They're called self-tapes for anyone that doesn't know. But the self-tapes in the beginning, I had a lot of resistance to, because you finally, or at least I felt like I was finally getting into a groove of going into the room and kind of getting over my nerves, because I do have audition anxiety. I don't know who doesn't. God bless you if you don't, but I definitely do. And then the self-tapes, like I said, I had resistance to, just because it felt like it was another thing that actors had to learn how to do, which is you had to have a self-tape set up. You have to know how to film yourself. You're your director, you're your lighting person, you're all these things, you're your casting director. But I think now on the other end of it, I feel very lucky because it does give you a good sense of directing yourself. You know, like I think actors sometimes, or at least for me, you know, we always look for other approval or other people's artistic spin on something, whereas a lot of the time it's like, well, what do I think? So self-tapes, if you're at home shooting by yourself and there's no one in the room with you besides your reader, it's up to you to decide what you think. And that's invaluable to know, like, what do I think? You know, because I think that's how you kind of inevitably find your artistic voice and your style. And then through that, I think that's how you find the people you're meant to work with. You know, the casting directors of the shows that you want to be on will find you, you know, you find them. So I think it's ultimately a good thing.
Awesome. That's good. I mean, I'm a little bit speechless because it's interesting. Now let's talk about your performance in theater, right? So you've been in several plays, such as the Murder of Crows, Straight Talk, The Maiden's Prayer. So tell me, what are some of the difference between doing a play and be on set? You discovered that got your attention, let's say?
Sure. So I don't know if Floyd, if you're still on this, but Floyd actually is Floyd 8 was somebody that I work with, and he was part of a theater company called the New American Theater, which is a great theater company based in Los Angeles. And I would say the biggest difference for me between TV and film is the live element. And both have pros and cons, but the live element of theater, it's like you practice, and then you go and do it. And it's that performance on that day just is what it is. And versus TV and film, like a lot of times I've kind of learned this as I've gotten more into the industry, but it's an editor's medium. You know, the footage goes back to the editing room, and the editor really is who has the power in like what version the audience is going to see of you, the actor, that day. Now, that's not to say that the director doesn't have, you know, a director in theater is going to have an opinion about like what you're putting out there as an actor, but I really could just do whatever the fuck I wanted if I wanted to, you know? And but I would say like you have slightly more control to some degree in theater, in my opinion. With the acting for TV and film, you really just like, you have no idea half the time what they're gonna pick. You have no idea if, you know, you just have no idea. Like, sorry, real quick, I sort of feel like I'm talking a lot, but the very first thing, Betrayed, I remember there was this one scene that I was so excited about. My character like showed up at the courthouse with a gun to kill the guy that like killed my sister. And I was so excited to do that because it was like a big emotional like scene where I'm like crying and I have a gun. You know, who doesn't like want to do that? And it didn't make the final edit, and I was so disappointed. I was so devastated. And I remember trying to contact like the production company. I remember trying to contact like the editor. You know, no one answered me, and that's absolutely fine. Now I know, like, it's just, that is what it is. Like, you have no control over what's, so yeah.
And what do you like the most about acting for a play?
Collaboration and the live elements. I mean, there's nothing more special than knowing that you worked really hard on this one thing, and you have your lines, you have your relationship, you have this, like, again, this whole world that you and your castmates and director have created together, and then people get to come see it, and you get to hear firsthand, like, what people like and respond to. And you know when you're in theater and people are, like, in it. And I think that's really special, too. Like, if you put something out online, I mean, you can tell, obviously, now with social media, with views and likes and comments and all that. Like, I know there are 4 people watching right now, and I know all of you guys, and I love you guys. Thanks for watching. And Dan, thanks for asking me to do this. This is so fun. But with theater, you have, you know, if there's 50 people in the room and everyone's really engaged in what's going on, like, that's very special.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, the connection, right? That you can that you are kind of building for the audience. So at some point you're all kind of on the same, let's say, yeah, that you're all on the same vibe. Let's say, yeah.
Yes, totally, absolutely.
That's awesome. And tell me, what do you think? Like, what do you usually do before going after? Yeah, like, what do you usually do before and after going on stage? Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I love wine, so I usually will have like a glass of wine after. Before, I just genuinely try to stay in character. I mean, it's hard. Like if it's an audition, for example, I'm usually in my head and I'm thinking about it. I'm crafting. I'm trying to stay like focused and present because I want to do my very best in that moment. And same of course with theater, but you know, I try to get to the theater early if I have if I know that I'm performing live. I really do try to warm up my body, warm up my voice, and just get into character in that way. And then after, I usually have a glass of wine.
Yeah, there you go. And what do you think is the key for a good performance in theater?
Kind of what you said, like connection to your partner and I'd say like probably preparation, because when you're prepared and you know exactly what you're saying, you know exactly what you're doing, within that preparation you are then able to play freely and be present for like whatever happens. So if I know exactly what I'm saying and I'm playing opposite Floyd and Floyd drops his prop on the ground, instead of that like freaking me out as an actor, then we use that together as a gift, you know, because it's live. And so it's like, oh my God, we can respond to this in any way. You know, he ad-libs a line, I ad-lib a line, we chuckle and we go on with it. So you can't do that if you're not prepped, though, if you don't have a good, you know, base for what it is that you're doing. So I think I'd say preparation. There you go.
And how could you describe your career at the moment?
I honestly am very proud of where I'm at. I am coming up on my 7-year mark, and I've had in Los Angeles, and I kind of say too, like my first couple years out here, I don't even count, because I just was like figuring out my side jobs, and I lived with a bunch of people that I'd gone to college with, and you know, we were going out, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was like just a different, it was just different. It wasn't my focus. I feel like I started getting really focused at the tail end of like 2017, because that's when I got like my first commercial agent and I started booking commercials. And then from that, I started, you know, I finally got a TV agent and all that. But anyway, I was just going to say, like, this year I've had already, I mean, close to 45 auditions for theatrical things. So like things you see on television. And, you know, sometimes I get down because I'm like, oh, you know, I want a book. I want to, obviously. But if I think back to my 22-year-old self who just moved here, that version of me would be so proud of,
absolutely,
you know, where I'm at today. So I know it will happen for me. I just have to, you know, kind of keep finding my artistic voice and keep, you know, being my own biggest advocate, which is hard because I'm humble. I mean, I don't mean that in like a way, but I definitely, I'm a comparer, you know, it's my biggest like issue in life. So I'm always kind of looking left and right instead of just sometimes focusing in on my lane. So, yeah, I mean, even stuff like this, being contacted by you to do this, like no one would have asked me to do this 4 years ago. Like, well, I don't have anything to show for, and that's okay. You know, I'm on my own path, but yeah. That's
cool. And I wonder, like, what motivates you? Because besides the amazing job that you have done, like checking your whole Instagram page, we will see like a lot of funny videos here and there. Like, what motivates you to keep up? You know, to keep having like this amazing vibe and this positive and this like positivity to just keep going and going. Like, what drives you?
Great question, Dan. I would say what drives me is honestly, I mean, the Instagram stuff, I feel to some degree that I have to do. Creating videos and having an online presence is not my favorite thing in the world. Because kind of like I was saying to you earlier, I really do like the collaborative process. Like my friend Cam, what's up, Cam? If you're still here, but he's a writer, and like what's fun is like when Cam writes something and I get to read his words. I like that because I don't consider myself a writer. I don't consider myself a director. I don't, so the online stuff to some degree, I definitely feel like I have to do because there's no denying that TikTok, Instagram, like people get opportunity from creating online, and that's just the truth of it. So I've had a lot of resistance to that in the past, but now I'm trying to kind of like open up my heart to just thinking like, hey, this can be just a way for you when you have a good idea, no pressure, you can put it online. I would say though, in general, what motivates me is just like the idea of getting better and the idea that like if eventually I make it to, I get my series regular, like I have hopes that I could, create my own production company and then like employ people who I have a connection with, like my friend Katie on here. She's a stylist. Like I'd love to work with her in a professional setting and hire her. And like, that really is the dream. It's like getting to work with people who you love and respect, and like you get to pick your projects. Like that's the ultimate goal, I'd say.
There you go. And my last question here: any advice you could give to someone who recently started, in the whole acting business, or even somebody who was just starting following their dreams? What would you say?
I would say to somebody just starting out, I would say, as best as you can, and this is like me giving myself my own advice, stay in your lane, because people, there's going to be people who right out of college book a series regular and they're 22 and they're making close to $1 million, and you're struggling to find a waiting tables job. There's going to be people who blow up on TikTok, and this has happened to me, like, specifically, people blow up on TikTok and you're like, but wait, I've booked 15 jobs to their one. Like, it's so annoying. But you can't compare yourself to other people's journeys. You can't think that you deserve something just because you've done X, Y, and Z. Like, part of this, let me try again. I guess what I'd say is stick to your own lane and have faith in yourself, because people, Terry, like unknowingly, we live with these things that people have said to us that just like stick in our hearts and make us feel shitty about ourselves, and we don't even know why. Like, we don't even know why wearing a certain skirt makes me feel bad about myself, and it's like, oh, because somebody in third grade said something, da 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 da. I would just say, like, continue to practice, continue to hone your craft and get better, and then when you do have an opportunity to perform, like, be great. This is the worst answer, I'm sorry, honest to God. What I would say is just like, do your thing, stick in your lane, don't look left and right, and be prepared. That's what I would say.
There you go. Preach.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, you just need to be you, be real. Yes. And of course, that whatever you do, there's going to be some people that is not going to like it. They're going to trash it. You're going to receive hate, let's say, here and there. But at the end of the day, it's just part of the whole of the whole ride, and you can't just try to change. You will not, in order to please others, you will change yourself, like your essence, like what made you start to do like this project, or So at the end of the day, you need to be real and be honest with yourself and keep working hard. And basically.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, people are always gonna, and when you're authentic to yourself, then you like find your tribe of people. Like and I think that's when real creative genius and opportunity happens, when it's like you are working with the people who you should be working with because you are yourself. You know, so I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you will. Yeah, at the end of the day, you will get like the right audience will come to you. You know, I mean,
Yes.
you just need to wait and don't lose focus, because eventually that right audience is gonna reach, and you're gonna be in this kind of happy place, let's say, in which you are surrounded with people who appreciate your craft, what you do, like all of that thing, and I think that's like the main goal here. Because if you just do one thing, or you just start a project to get famous, I mean, you can't I think these days getting famous, it's kind of easy. You just need to do something funny, put it online, and you get your 15 minutes of fame, you know what I mean? But that's the thing here. But yeah, I do agree also with what you said, that you need to just to be real and do your own thing. Yeah.
But sorry, real quick, I don't know how much time but I agree with you also too, in that is like, it's not even just about like finding the people you work with. You nailed it. It's your audience. It's like who watches your stuff, like who finds your, you know, voice funny or dramatic or whatever it is, who likes you to some degree. And that's 100%, because you can't do anything if you don't have an audience. That's the thing, is like, no one's gonna, even if I get a series, you know, regular someday and no one watches my show, it's like, well, then I'm not gonna have a show. You know, you have to have a fan base and an audience that like enjoys what, and that's the thing, is that's why, you know, people love their fans so much, and it's because fans give people an opportunity to live the life that they want creatively, you know. So you're absolutely right. It's also about like, you know, your audience. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, what can I say about this? I mean, Sarah, you pretty much preach here. So thank you so much for being here at the show. I mean, you are a super talented actress. I can't wait to see more of your awesome work. Hopefully we will be able to see you in more and more projects, which I'm sure it's gonna happen. Because if there's someone, I mean, if there's a badass actress around here, for sure it's you. So
thanks, Dan.
Yeah. Now, before I send you off, I need to send you off in an epic way. So here we go. That was awesome.
That's so sweet.
And also, thank you so much for those who for those who watch this live. Also, thank you those who are listening in this later on the podcast or watching this on the YouTube video. Make sure that you're following Sarah in all of her social media. Normally, what I would say is that put pause here for a while, hydrate for a bit, and then make sure that you're following Sarah in all of her social media. Leave her a bunch of likes here and there. Why not? And then come back for sure. And again, Sarah, thank you so much. Keep having an amazing rest of the day, an amazing weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.
Sounds good, Dan. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for asking me.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.